How can you tell if you have social anxiety or if you're just a little shy? Everyone feels a little discomfort or shyness in uncomfortable social situations, especially children. Additionally, some people are more naturally outgoing, while others are typically more reserved. However, there is a clear contrast between everyday nervousness and a social anxiety disorder. Most importantly, it induces fear and anxiety and makes you avoid certain situations, which will begin to interfere with your daily life at work, school, and at home. Usually, social anxiety begins to appear in the early or mid-teenage years, although it can show up earlier. Today, we'll go over what the signs and symptoms of social anxiety disorder are. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more content. We'll start with the emotional symptoms. The first sign is a persistent fear of situations in which you might be judged. For example, you might not want to get a drink from the vending machine because you're worried what the other people in the lounge might think of you. You might avoid simple interactions with groups of people because it could make you feel exposed. The second symptom is worrying about embarrassing or humiliating yourself. For example, you might obsess over a situation in which you thought you looked foolish, and it would cause you so much distress that it would be impossible to think about anything else. The third emotional symptom of a social anxiety disorder is an intense fear of talking to strangers. You might dread talking to the cashier, waiter, or doctor, and it would cause you to put off doing these things. The fourth symptom is a fear that other people will notice you're anxious. This is basically worrying about worrying, and it's not a very fun time. It can cause you to get lost in your head and can prevent ever truly living in the moment because you're worried someone will be able to see how anxious you are about the whole thing. Somewhat connected, the fifth emotional sign is a fear of experiencing physical symptoms that will make apparent how anxious you are. Ironically, this worrying can actually cause the physical symptoms, and the whole thing is a cycle. These emotional symptoms are the primary drivers of the behavioral symptoms, which we'll go over now. The first behavioral sign of social anxiety is avoiding doing things or speaking to people out of fear of embarrassment. You might decline an invite to hang out with a group of friends because you're worried you'll look silly. The second sign is avoiding situations in which you could be the center of attention. People with a social anxiety disorder absolutely dread the spotlight and will actively avoid it as best they can. The third behavioral sign is a bit different. A person with social anxiety may endure a social situation with extreme levels of fear or anxiety, either because they are paralyzed by fear or because they are more scared of what people will think of them if they were to leave the situation early. Another behavioral sign is spending time after a social situation, analyzing your performance to see what you could have done better, even though you probably did fine. The last behavioral sign of social anxiety is expecting the worst possible outcome from every social situation whenever something goes wrong. For example, you might accidentally call somebody the wrong name, and now you're worried that they hate you and they'll never speak to you again. These behavioral symptoms of social anxiety disorder can really make it difficult to live a normal life because every single interaction is constantly analyzed and worried over. Additionally, when you avoid doing too much, your world starts to shrink, which can lead to a cycle of self-reinforcement, wherein you're afraid of social situations so you avoid them, which makes you less confident about social situations. Now that we've gone over the emotional and behavioral symptoms, let's finish up. Although there are physical symptoms of social anxiety, they are mostly the same as a generalized anxiety disorder and include blushing, a fast heartbeat, trembling in the hands, sweating, nausea, trouble catching your breath, and dizziness or lightheadedness, as well as even muscle tension. While these certainly are not fun, they really aren't what makes social anxiety such a problem. So what does? As we've gone over, having social anxiety can cause you to want to avoid social scenarios or make them much harder to endure. You might avoid attending parties or social gatherings, going to work or school, starting conversations, or even making eye contact. This is the main problem of social anxiety. It causes you to miss out on a life passing you by because you're too afraid to interact with people. I think social anxiety is something that should be talked about more, so more people can get the help they need. On that note, You should seek professional help for social anxiety if you fear and avoid normal situations because they cause embarrassment, worry, or panic. Thanks for tuning in. If you found this video valuable, please like and subscribe for even more content, and comment down below what you thought of the video.